If you're not losing fat working full time, all right, it is not your willpower. If you're working 9 to 5, right, training a few times a week, trying to eat healthier, but your body just has not changed in months, all right, this is for you. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you don't have a metabolism problem, but you're just running a system that is designed to fail for someone with a full time job. All right. So I want to break down the real reason that fat loss feels so hard for you when you're busy and the mindset you need to actually fix it. So first of all, most people think fat loss is about motivation and discipline, and that if you just tried harder, that you would be lean. But that's wrong. All right, that is straight up wrong. If fat loss requires insane amounts of motivation, almost nobody with a job, a commute, stress, family, a social life would ever get in shape. All right. Yet some people do, like a lot of my clients, not because they're more disciplined, but because they're playing a different game. All right. You've been trying to outwork a broken setup, long days, right? You've got low energy. You've got decision fatigue. You've got no real plan for food when you're tired and you get off of work. So your default is just convenience, whether that's snacking or takeout or random meals, and then guilt. It's not a willpower problem. It is a system problem. All right. The real issue is that your brain is your brain is fried by the end of the day. You wake up early, maybe you don't get the best sleep, you work hard all day, all right, you put in the hours, and then you're literally just fried by the end of the day, all right? And you start the morning with good intentions, and then work hits, and then you've got meetings, you've got deadlines, you've got stress, and then by the time you're off, your self-control is already cooked, all right? So what happens? You don't feel like cooking, and then you just, snack because you feel like you deserve it, or maybe you're a bit stressed, and the easiest thing is just to grab the bag of chips right out of the pantry, and then you screw up on the weekend and you just plan to start again on Monday. All right. Your environment is set up to make the wrong choices. All right. Every time you fail, every time this happens, every time you snack unintentionally or don't cook or just order takeout, right? You just feel like you don't have the discipline. And that story is what's keeping you stuck. All right. So this is the real mindset shift that you really need. All right. This is what helped me lose literally 20 pounds. I'm down. This is the mindset shift that helped me lose 8 pounds in the last month. All right. Stop trying to be a disciplined person and start becoming a person with a disciplined environment. So what do I mean by this, right? Busy people don't rely on motivation, they rely on friction, right? They're making the wrong choice harder. You need to make the right choice easier all right? You need to make the wrong choice, like grabbing the snacks, ordering the takeout, harder, more barriers to entry, and then make the right choice easier. So if the healthy meal is already cooked, for example, you're going to eat it, right? If the protein is already cooked in your fridge, you're going to hit your target because it's already there. It's easier to grab than just grabbing takeout. All right. If your workout is shorter, right, it's more scheduled in, you'll actually show up. It's way more doable. All right. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. I'm sure that we've all heard that. All right. So the problem is, like, most guys still see themselves as, I'm trying to lose fat. All right. They just say, I am trying to lose fat. But that's weak identity. All right. It leaves room to quit because you're literally saying that you're trying. All right. The people who actually start seeing changes, right? Like my client Marcelo, who dropped 26 pounds in 16 weeks, which is not a long time, but he completely transformed his body and got shredded abs. All right. Literally, what we programmed him to say was, like, is changing his mindset and saying, like, I'm someone who takes care of my body even when life is busy. All right. Versus I'm trying to lose fat. All right. That means you're not negotiating with yourself every second, every day. For example of negotiating with yourself. Negotiating with yourself is literally, okay, I worked hard all day. I might as well grab the McDonald's. I might as well grab the chips, right? Because I earned it. All right. You're negotiating with yourself and you are straight up, you're not going to win. You're not going to win, especially when the self that you're negotiating with is also tired. Is on the side of getting the junk food. They don't want to do all that. And if you negotiate with yourself every single day, you're always going to wait for motivation, and you're always going to want to restart every single Monday. So what you need to do is build boring, repeatable habits that work, even when you're super busy, even when you are super stressed on your worst days, and not just your best days. Because most of the time, we are feeling stressed, we are busy with work, and we don't really feel all that motivated. Like, even myself, I don't even feel all that motivated. Yesterday, I felt really, really motivated. Today, I woke up and I was tired. I didn't want to do my work. Didn't want to eat healthy. It was easier to just eat. It was easier to eat the muffins in the fridge. That was the easier option. But we had to stay true because I had a system, right? I had meal prep in the fridge. I had easy meals. I had planned out meals the day before last night, so I knew what to eat when I woke up. So that is kind of what we're going to be going into. All right. So here's kind of why you feel stuck, even when you're doing the right things. All right. You're, the fact that you're showing up and training 3 times a week, that's not the problem. The fact that you're trying to eat healthy, like that's not the problem, but it's just, you're just inconsistent. You're inconsistent because of your super busy life. All right. You're eating random meals. You don't have structure for busy days. You don't have a plan for social events. There's no fallback for when you have a stressful week. And then you just end up in a loop. You have a good week where you eat super clean. You track your macros and you hit all your gym sessions. You hit all your steps. And then whatever happens on the weekend. And then you have a bad week, right? And then you don't make progress and you're just frustrated. And that's not fat loss. That is literally, you're maintaining. You're not making any progress. Maybe you're even gaining weight. All right. So this is what we kind of need to do. First, you need to understand that fat loss is not a 30-day grind. It's not a 30-day sprint. It's honestly a boring process of not quitting, even when life gets messy. All right. Fat loss takes a long time, especially if you've got over 20 pounds to lose. That most likely is going to take just under 6 months, or if you got more than that to lose, that could take longer. If you got 50 pounds to lose, that could take a year. That could take longer if you're even, if you do it really slowly. And that's a long time. And you cannot rely on motivation that entire time, because motivation is going to die out in the first, second, third week. So when it comes to fat loss, your job is not to be perfect. Your job is just to stop starting over, and it's just to be consistent for as long as you possibly can. And if you can build a setup that works 70 to 80% of the time, you'll get lean, and that's enough. You don't need extreme diets. You need repeatable structure. So what does that repeatable structure actually look like? We got the fitness area side of things, where it's your workouts. My best clients, they work out for 3 days a week for 45 minutes. My client Juan literally he's down 33 pounds in the last 4 or 5 months, and all he did was 45-minute workouts 3 days a week, because that's all you need. What you need to do is look at your calendar. We all have a calendar, right? Whether that's Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, on your phone, whatever. Maybe you got a calendar on the wall. Like, I don't know, maybe you do that because you're, I don't know, old, whatever. Plan out your days. All right, we'll go off the base of Google Calendar, because you can plan out when you're going to wake up, when you're going to work. All right, so literally, imagine you got your Google Calendar, plan out when you're going to wake up, eat, drive to work your 8 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours or whatever. All right, no matter how busy you are, then literally plan in, look at your week, plan out what are your least 3 busy days. Maybe that's 2 workouts on the weekend because you're less busy on the weekend. And then maybe there's a day where you get off a bit earlier than others. Those are the 3 days that you want to pick to work out. And literally right after work, you go and you show up. And if you work evenings or overnight, then go before your work, so that you don't have to rely on motivation after work to show up. So that is the fitness side of things. All right. Then we have the nutrition side of things. That's where most people struggle. That's where I've struggled the most. So what you need to do is, number one, it's actually, you obviously go, like meal prepping. I've understood more and more and more why it's so important. Okay. Literally, when you have meals in your fridge, you don't need to order takeout. You don't want to order takeout, because you can literally, you can eat the meal that you have in your fridge by the time that takeout's arrived already. Like the same amount of time it takes you to order the meal, you literally could just put it in the microwave and you can eat it before the meal even comes. So that's why having meals that you actually look forward to and you actually cook in your fridge. So a lot of the great meals I love eating, I prepare protein pancakes. I love pancakes too. Okay, who doesn't love pancakes, right? So I pre-cook them and then I put them in the fridge. And then when I need to heat them up, I don't throw them in the microwave. I put them in the air fryer so they get a bit like not soggy and get more crispy. And that way it's actually delicious, and I look forward to it, and it literally tastes better than a lot of the things that I would be able to order out. So that's the thing. Or you can cook another, like, I don't know, you can learn how to cook a nice chicken and rice, right? It doesn't need to be bland, like, that bodybuilder style chicken and rice. Cook up a nice chicken and rice with some nice sauce, season your food, season your rice, stir fry some vegetables. That's going to taste pretty good. It's going to taste like, I don't know, Panda Express, for example. And instead of ordering Panda Express, you got healthy food at home. And if you do that, if you sit down on a Sunday and you batch prep a bunch of your meals, then you have them in the fridge. Then all you need to do is when it comes to literally after work, all right, you open the fridge and you get that meal in and you're done. And same with working, right? Instead of going out to take and grabbing takeout on, say, your lunch break, if you already have a meal that you brought with you in the fridge, you're going to be so less likely to go order takeout because you already have that meal. You don't want to go to waste. So the more you can get in the habit of meal prepping once or twice a week, and you always have meals ready in the fridge and you plan out what you're going to eat the day before, you're going to be a lot more set with nutrition. And then lastly, we have, say, the cardio and sleep. that just comes down again to planning, but also making it a whole lot easier. For example, just removing the barriers to actually getting that done. Parking a bit farther away from work so that you don't need to go for a long 45-minute walk after work. If you park farther away from work, that's 10 minutes on the way there, 10 minutes on the way back. You park further away from the gym. Maybe that's a 5-minute walk there, 5-minute walk back. Get your steps in at the gym on the treadmill after your session so that you don't have to go home and again get more steps in. Walk around while you're taking your work calls. Walk around while you are just pacing, for example. So that's some ways. And then with sleep as well, you know, as soon as you shower up, you brush your teeth, all that, don't have your phone in your room. All right. I know some of you guys are like, okay, I need to wake up and I use my phone for my alarm. Okay. I said that to myself for the longest time too. We all have a computer, we all have an iPad, we all have some type of other thing that we can use for an alarm. Even you can use your Apple Watch. All right, literally. And if you need to, go buy an alarm clock from Amazon. Okay, go spend 25, $30 on an alarm clock or less. I don't know how expensive they are. I use my laptop as my alarm clock because I'm not likely to go scroll on my laptop, right? So literally put your phone in another room as soon as it is around bedtime. That way, you're not going to be caught doom scrolling or watching Netflix or watching YouTube before you go to sleep, because we've all been caught in that trap, especially me. Especially me. I know what that's like. And I literally remember doom scrolling for like 2 hours. I get in bed at 9 o'clock. I'm like, damn, I'm going to have a good sleep. And then I am on TikTok watching literally BS for like 30 minutes to an hour. I'm like, what have I just done? I just learned nothing. I just wasted all my time. And I just am gonna have less time to sleep now. So get the phone out of your room so that you're in a better environment. Your room is an environment better to sleep. So that is what I so that's all the sauce. And these are literally the tips that have helped a lot of my clients. So it's like 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds, literally in less than half a year, because they didn't rely on motivation anymore. They just relied on their systems. So if you're watching this and thinking like, "Oh my god, this is me," that's not a coincidence, all right? Because most full-time workers are stuck because no one ever taught them how to set up fat loss for real life, right? I remember this is a lot of advice that I used when I used to drop 20 pounds working literally 50, 60-hour work weeks as like a supervisor. So I definitely do understand, all right? Nobody ever taught, full-time workers how to set up fat loss for real life. So if you feel like you're struggling with this and you want an actual game plan, you want an actual approach, an actual helpful solution to getting into your best shape of your life and implementing everything that we just went into and a whole lot more to make it way easier for you so that you can get into the best shape of your life. You can drop 20 pounds of fat, plus you can lose your love handles, lose your face fat, and fit into your old clothes in time for summer. Because there's like 150 days until summer, about 5 months, and you got a good amount of fat to lose. You probably got to start cutting now. So if you want an actual personalized approach to getting into the best shape of your life, like a ton of my clients, then literally just DM me the word on Instagram, DM me the word transformation, and I'll reach out to see if I can help. Or you can straight up just book a call, click the link below in the description to speak with me. We'll set up a call and we'll go over like a free assessment to see how I can help. Otherwise, hope you have the best of your life. Peace.